So 2 months back, I did a video on my channel why you should become a cloud developer, and the video did relatively well compared to the size of my channel. And a lot of people personally and in the comments asked me if I could do a video on how you could become a cloud engineer and what are the tools and technologies that you should learn as a beginner in order to become a cloud developer. So I promised that I would do a video on it, and here I am. I kept my promise. So without further ado, let's get to it. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Aslah and I'm a software engineer based in Prague. So it's been a while since I did a long form video over here on my channel, and if you have seen my previous videos, you might have noticed my background changed a bit. So I had to move my apartment, and I also went home back to my family for almost a month. It had been a while since I visited my family because of obvious reasons. COVID, I had graduation last year and I got a new job, so I never got the time to finally visit them. So I did this year, and I was also planning to do YouTube at my home, but I just never got the chance to put it all together. So I was just experimenting with YouTube Shorts, why some shorts are getting into YouTube short shelf and some are not. So it was just like a trial and error process. But yeah, enough rambling. So let's get into the video. So I broke this video into mainly three parts. Number one, who is a cloud developer? And number two, what platform you should pick in order to learn cloud development. Number three, tools and technologies and programming languages that you should know in order to become a cloud engineer. So number one, who is a cloud developer? A cloud engineer is essentially someone who writes code in the cloud or on your local machine that is connected to a cloud environment. So you build, administrate, architect cloud solutions and infrastructure. So depending on how big your project is or how big your company is, you might be doing one of these tasks or all of them. So for example, I work in Salesforce, and in Salesforce as a cloud engineer or developer, you need to know at least an overview knowledge of all these tasks in order to build more scalable solutions. But it really comes down to the size of your team and what cloud you're working on. So it might get overwhelming at times, but I promise you it's very exciting. So number two, pick a platform and stick with it. It can be any one of the major clouds like AWS, GCP, Salesforce or Azure. So the fundamental knowledge you learn from all these clouds are transferable to an extent. The only thing that might change might be the way how you call certain things. For example, I can only speak from my experience. So in Salesforce, we have some automation tools like flows, process builders. These are inbuilt low code or less code automation tools. So these tools or settings might be called in a different way in different clouds, but the key here is to essentially choose one platform or one cloud and stick with it. But one thing that I want to bring up regards to this topic is certificates. I know there are a lot of stigma revolving around getting certified, and one thing that I can say for sure is the amount of certificates you have does not equal to the knowledge or experience someone has. That being said, especially if you're a beginner, these certificates really help you to get a high level knowledge of the platform. So when I joined Salesforce, when I started working with Salesforce, 1 or 2 months into my job, I started preparing for my very first Salesforce certificate. And I didn't have any clue about a lot of the topics that were covered in this certificate. But however, I learned them and I got certified. And when I started working on projects, started getting hands-on experience on these topics, it immediately starts to click in you. At least that was my experience. So I've been working with Salesforce for only less than a year now, and hopefully by the time this video comes out, I'll be a certified application architect. And how I achieved that and how I managed to get it in less than a year is a whole another topic for a different video. So now let's talk about the tools and technologies that you need to be familiar with in order to work on cloud. Number one on the list is Git, a version control system. And of course, if you could familiarize with one of the hosting services like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, that would be a good asset too. And you should know all the basics like how to create a feature branch, how to merge a branch, how to make a pull request, all these basic Git stuff. So the second fundamental thing that you should understand or learn in order to work in cloud is DevOps. DevOps is a set of practice that helps you shorten your development lifecycle and provides you continuous integration and deployment with high software quality. So basically, it's a method that's derived from Agile, where you essentially develop, test, and deploy to a certain environment on a continuous basis. So in this case, you're deploying to a cloud environment. So depending on what cloud or platform you're working with, you might have different DevOps tools. There are many in the market like Jenkins, Copado, Gearset. Some of them are very specific to certain clouds. For example, in Salesforce, for Salesforce, we have a specific DevOps tool called Gearset, but there are also other tools that helps you work with multiple platforms. So now let's talk about probably the most favorite topic of all, which programming language you should pick. Automating things inside cloud is best done by code, even though some clouds have some inbuilt automation tools like flows and process builders in Salesforce. But I'm not going to say which programming language is going to be the best one for you. But I would say picking a language like Python or JavaScript, you cannot go wrong with it. And depending on which cloud or platform you're going to be working with, the tech stack is going to change entirely. For example, on Salesforce, we use entirely a different or unique tech stack. On the back end, we use a Java-like language. It looks almost like Java, maybe 75%. It's called Apex, and we have a React looking like a front-end framework, which is called LWC, Lightning Web Component. So depending on what cloud you're working on, you might have different backend language, different front-end framework, and different set of tech stack. So the key here is, like we mentioned earlier, to pick one of the cloud and stick with it and learn the technologies and languages revolving around that specific cloud. So working in cloud or becoming a cloud engineer is like being an application architect or full stack developer, where you need to know fundamentals of different technologies, tools, and domains like security, IT, infrastructure, user management. And like I said in the beginning, depending on the size of your project or company, you might be doing a number of these tasks or all of these. And now cloud architecture is becoming more and more software defined architecture. So you need to understand more of these fundamentals of software development process in order to become a good cloud engineer. I want to keep this video super sweet and short. And if you have made it this far, I want to tell you that I'm planning to start a new series on my channel, and I'm going to call it Off Premise, if you understand the pun. And until then, make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe for more. I'll talk to you in the next one. Cheers.